My name is Tom, and I'm an alcoholic. In an effort to improve outreach to members in the armed services who may be struggling with an alcohol problem, we are collecting interviews from current AA members serving in the U.S. and Canadian Armed Forces to share the experience and strength and hope they have found in Alcoholics Anonymous. Today, we'll be talking with Isaac S.
Hey, I'm Isaac, an alcoholic. I've been in the military for a little over 6 years now. I'm a staff sergeant. I've been in the rooms for a little while. I haven't lived in active alcoholism addiction since I've been in the military, but I got sober when I was 14. I had kind of a quick and rough go at it. So drinking, drugging I started when I was 13, and it progressed pretty quickly. I got in a lot of legal trouble, kicked out of school, all that kind of stuff. I was kicked out of school one time, and that was for marijuana. But that's kind of where it first started, realizing that I had an issue, or I didn't realize I had an issue. Other people realized I had an issue, mostly my parents. I was court mandated to go to a program, and I ended up going to a rehab program out in Texas for about 7 months. It was like a self-paced program. I worked through it, and then I've been sober ever since I got out of that program. I'm a little over 10 years sober right now. But that's been my experience. Big reasons for joining the military. I've always had these dreams ever since I was in high school, these aspirations of being the special operations realm of things. And that was my goal. And I tried to pursue that early in my career. I actually ended up failing out of, it was called TACP. I washed out of that. And that was actually a pretty big test for my recovery, because I was in a pretty dark spot around that time. But between that, with the special operations career fields, and my dad also served 26 years in the Air Force. He's actually also a member of Alcoholics Anonymous. But so those are my big reasons for joining the military.
Right. Could you talk a little bit about when you dropped out of the TACP course? You said that was a dark part, of your life. You had these aspirations and all. How did you navigate that with your program during that difficult time in the military?
So in all honesty, my first time around, working my steps, it was when I was in that rehab program, and we had 60, 70 guys who were all going through the steps with one guy who was organizing this. So I kind of, you slip through the cracks. You don't really get that real experience for working the steps. And I kind of throughout high school, I would go to meetings here and there, but I never really had a sponsor. I never really worked my steps. So, but I stayed sober, and throughout starting the pipeline for TACP and everything, I was sober. And after that, I actually ended up getting stationed back home. And after I got home, I reached out to a buddy of mine who's in the program. He's been in for a while, and I asked him to sponsor me. And I worked my steps with him. And these things, we worked through all these things. Those dark spaces. I worked all through that with my sponsor and working my step work. And that's ultimately how I pull myself out of that dark spot. My life changed significantly after I worked my steps. I was definitely concerned also with going into the special operations career field, how that would influence me, because I know those career fields are very heavy on drinking and partying and all those kind of things, just toxic behaviors. But I still managed to find people, friends. I made very, very good friends throughout the pipeline and everything. People who I'm still very close with today, who are very supportive of me being sober. And anytime I hang out with them, even though they drink, they never pressure me into drinking or even want me to drink or nothing like that. They're very supportive. And but I think it's just finding those friends who support you in your decisions. but I don't necessarily share to everybody that, I'm not incredibly open about being in AA, because it does bring some negative connotations to that, because people who aren't familiar with the program will hear like, oh, I'm an alcoholic. Oh, you're an alcoholic, and don't necessarily understand. And they think that there's a difference between being an alcoholic and being in active alcoholism. I mean, the tools that I've received from Alcoholics Anonymous has been substantial, just in facing everyday problems and issues. I mean, even outside the military. So I would just say to not be afraid to reach out. I mean, I would just suggest that you find a meeting, because meetings are very easy to find. I can pull up, AA in my general location, and I can find a whole slew of meetings. And that's all it takes, is just going to a meeting, just putting yourself in those meetings, talking to people. And I mean, many people will approach you, especially as a newcomer. So many people will approach you, and in the rooms here in Florida, there are many service members who I've seen in my meetings, and we've discussed about being in AA in the military, and it's no issue. There's no reason to be scared or fearful for your career if you go to an AA meeting. Again, it's anonymous.
Isaac, thank you very much for your time today and for sharing your experience as a military member, Sober and Alcoholics Anonymous.
The views and opinions expressed during this podcast are those of the individuals. No one person speaks for AA as a whole. For more information about AA, please visit our website at aa.org. To find a meeting near you or a meeting online, download the Meeting Guide app on your mobile device.